Okay, I couldn't find a 6L6 that I wanted to sacrifice, but I did find a 7591, which Hammond used in some of their later organs. Heathkit used them. I believe that's what's in the amplifier I spoke of a little bit ago, our 7591s. I found one of those that had been broken, so I will dissect that. But the 7591 is not an actual triode. Remember, I said the triode has 3 active elements, not counting the filament. You have a cathode, a grid, and an anode or plate. And power will flow from the cathode through the grid to the anode. The grid is what controls it. Think of the grid as pinching shut a garden hose. That's basically what the grid does. If you take the grid away, you have the diode. Power can flow from the filament to the plate, and there's nothing stopping it. All the current will flow. Well, that's fine if you're trying to make DC voltage where you want all the current to flow. But if you're trying to make an amplifier, you need something that will slow the current down or be able to control that current. So they put a grid in there, which is basically a screen or mesh between the cathode and the anode. And depending on the voltage you put in on this screen, this grid will slow the current down or stop it. You can use a triode for a switch or an amplifier. So if you put music in here, in its basic form, if you put music in the grid, loud music will come out the plate, sort of. There's a lot of extra parts that go into the amplifier, which we will get into farther later on in the video. So the 7591 is sort of a triode, but what they've done is they've added another grid. So you come up with a tetrode, which has the same heater and cathode and grid and plate as the triode, but now they've added this other grid. It's called a screen grid. That's just in there to control the way the tube works better. Triodes are good, tetrodes are better, and they even made pentodes. They all sound different. They're used in different applications, and I'm not really going to get into that detail of it. But I just wanted to verify with you guys that the tube I'm taking apart, the 7591, actually has an extra grid in there, a screen grid. And hopefully when I get it apart, you'll be able to see that. So I'm going to go grab the tube and come right back. Okay, I've got the tube. I'm going to try to get closer. I don't know how well it's going to focus. It's not going to focus. I'll have to stay about that far away. Okay, I haven't actually fully disassembled it yet, so you can see what it looks like from the inside without the glass envelope on it. This funny looking round thing on top is just a round piece of metal. You can see that it's magnetic to my screwdriver. They call that the getter. I don't know why. It's supposed to concentrate the any residual oxygen in the tube, I believe. But this outer metal gray part here, this is the plate. It is connected to one of these pins on the bottom with a wire right through there. So this is the plate, and you can, I don't know if you can see or not, but there are different parts in the center here. This part directly in the center is the cathode, and then I believe this is the screen grid. On the outside here, these 2 pins hold the screen grid. The grid is down inside. And these 2 pins in the center that are right directly near the cathode, those hold the regular grid. So now I'm going to try to take the top off from this and then I'll take the top off first and see if we can see down inside, and then I'll pull the plate off and you can see the grids. Okay, there's down inside the tube. So you can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a mesh part that looks sort of white on the camera. That's the grid. Around the outside of that is the screen grid, and of course you can see the plate on the outside. So now I'm going to pull the plate off and show you a side view inside. Okay, so I'm going to pull the plate off, and now you can see inside the grids. It's a very, very fine wire mesh. This outer one is the screen grid. The one that's closest to the white part is the regular control grid, and the white thing itself is the coated cathode. The filament is inside of the cathode. So now we'll try taking that apart and seeing if I can see if you guys can see better the internal grid. Okay, now these outer two rods hold the screen grid, which is very fine wire. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but maybe against the white background you can see the very fine wire. That's the screen grid, and there's very, very fine wire around the cathode here. That is the regular control grid, and then the white part is the cathode. I don't know if I can pull that apart and see the filament without damaging it, but I'll try. Okay, I managed to get it apart. This is the grid, the control grid. This is the cathode. It's a little hollow tube. It's got some white powder on it. That's the coating that helps it release electrons. As you can see, it's coming off on my hands. Hopefully it doesn't cause cancer or some stupid thing. But that's the cathode. And there's the filament. It's very fine wire. Now, I know I said earlier that the first number usually signifies voltage. This is a 7591. So you would think that it would be 7 volts. It's not. It's 6 volts. I think that only holds true for the tube types with a letter in them, like a 6L6 or a 6BA or a 6, that would be 6 volts. 12AX7, 12AT7, 12AU7, those are all 12 volts. 50C5, that would be a 50 volt heater. I think that only holds true for the ones with a letter in them. But the 7591 is a 6 volt tube. It's actually a power tube. I think it's about 17 or 18 watt dissipation. So I would put a pair of them at about 30 watts, 35 watts, class A, I believe. So that's the inner workings of the tube. That was a 7591 Hammond tube from an E100 organ. The glass had gotten broke, so I disassembled it for you guys.